So we got this Paccar MX-13 2016 Peterbilt 579. I did a video on it. You know, it had engine knock. You know, it's a fuel knock, and we figured out that we're knocking on cylinder 1 and 5, and then we have some issues going on with it. You know, like in 6. So remember that the DTC, the engine code, the trouble code was cylinder 6 contribution too low. Okay, so we know we have knock in cylinder number 1 and cylinder 5. You watched the previous video, you can see that. I'll show it to you right now. And but I never explained why we had an engine code for 6 and not for 1 and 5. Okay, so let me try to show you that. I didn't realize I did that until, you know, later, but anyway, let me show you that. Okay, so that's the engine knock that we got right from the knock sensor. So we saw that we had excessive knock in cylinder 1 and then in cylinder 5, and then we had some in cylinder 6, and then we got some in cylinder 4. And if we remember, you know, 3 and 2 were our best ones. Okay, so let me zoom into it so I can kind of explain why we had the code for number 6. Okay, so I'm zoomed in a little bit tighter. Hopefully you can see that. I'm out here in the sun. Anyway, we see the big excessive knock in cylinder 1, and then we have it in cylinder 5, but we had some in cylinder 6. What I want you to see is right here. You see how we're after, this would be basically top dead center right here at the edge, right? So this would be 1, and then that would be 5. So right there at the edge is top dead center for number 5. So, and then this would be top dead center for number 3, and so on and so forth. So look at number 6. You see how we're to the left of that edge, right? It should be over here to the right, but it's at the left. Can you guys see that? Okay, so I'll try to make this quick. So I put it before that the ECM, I mean, you have to understand the calibration of the ECM and the logic behind it, you know, and how it monitors its parameters, right? So one of the things it does, it monitors crankshaft speed, but in revolutions per second, not revolutions per minute, like what you see on your dash. All right, so it's monitoring each cylinder, you know, as far as the crankshaft speed. So what's happening is in cylinder 6 is slow. Okay, now in cylinder 6, what's happening is it's actually performing combustion, you know, before top dead center. That's why we see the knock to the left of top dead center, right? That's why it's to the left instead of to the right. So actually that's on the compression stroke. So, you know, it's having combustion before the piston hits top dead center. Okay, so in reality, what it's doing, it's trying to push that piston back down as it's coming up, so it's slowing down that cylinder, right? And the ECM is doing whatever it can to try to speed it back up, and it cannot. This is the reason why you have your code, right? So I think, you know, these injectors are leaking, and number 5 is doing what it's doing, and number 1 is doing what it's doing because they are leaking. But, you know, the ECM is trying to control that, and it's trying to speed up number 6 to match number 5 and number 1, right? So because it can't speed it up and it doesn't know why, you know, this is the reason why you got your code for number 6. So even if we put an injector in number 6, we may have gotten rid of the code, but we'd still have the problem in 1 and 5. And technically we got it in 4, 2, and really 3 was the only, 2 and 3 were the only ones that were working pretty much the way they're supposed to. So anyway, I didn't get to explain that on the last video. I asked a question, but I never explained it, so I apologize for that. So again, let me show you again just so you can see it. So this would be cylinder number 6. Remember, we got 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, and 4. You see how they're always to the right? To the right, that's when the injector fired. See, and this one's actually a little bit late, but right here, we're actually to the left. This would be cylinder 6 right here. So this would be top dead center for number 6. And our knock is actually coming from before top dead center. So this injector is leaking and it's having combustion before top dead center. So it's pushing down the piston as it's coming up, which is slowing down the crankshaft speed on that particular cylinder. And the ECM is trying to control that, but it cannot. So it sets the code because it's done everything it possibly could. It just doesn't know what's going on, right? If that makes any sense.